So I'm starting off this Tuesday morning just on a few calls. I got a call going on right now with the doc. Just doing these calls, answering some emails, just getting caught up on some old work and things like that. So I like to start off my mornings. And then I'll have a few classes that I got going on today with a full list of some assignments and things that I gotta do. It's gonna be a full fun day, another day in the life.
The other way you can do it if you don't have a team member available is just to...
So if I'm being completely transparent with you guys, my Tuesdays are pretty boring. I mean, besides the exception of a few calls that I had today, like I had a call earlier this morning, didn't get the chance to film with the doc just to keep it private, and I had a few other club meetings today. I had a club this afternoon that you guys saw. I have a couple club meetings this evening. But besides all of that, a large portion of my day is spent studying, reading PowerPoints, taking notes, reading through textbooks. And so yesterday we did Monday Mindset, so today's Tuesday, so we'll call this day Textbook Tuesday. So I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about some textbooks in chiropractic school, and maybe I'll keep it ongoing each week. We'll dive deeper into the topic, but the necessity of textbooks. Let's talk about that, and the necessity of textbooks. So if you look at my undergrad, for example, with the exception of my first semester of college, because I didn't know any better, I never bought a single textbook, except for a couple exercise physiology textbooks because I really liked learning that material. But I never bought textbooks in undergrad because I didn't need to, right? You don't need to buy textbooks in undergrad. In chiropractic school, it can kind of be similar, meaning that you don't need to buy textbooks for all of your classes. I think it's good to have textbooks for a lot of your foundational classes, because that term foundational, the foundational knowledge, a lot of the material in the textbooks, it's never going to go away, and it's necessary to have textbooks that won't get outdated, where the research in it may get devalidated, but to keep material that will stay true over the test of time, that will help facilitate your overall learning to be the best doctor that you can be. So what do I recommend for textbooks to acquire? Well, a few different things. Let's talk about the first one. The first one is anatomy textbooks. Highly recommend, no matter where you guys are at, whether you're already in chiropractic school, you're already a chiropractor, or if you're still a high school or college student, highly recommend you guys to get a good quality anatomy textbook. So there are three main ones that come to my mind that are probably the best anatomy textbooks you can get. One is the Netter's, which is what I have. I have the Netter's Atlas. The Netter's anatomy textbooks. The second one is the Gray's Anatomy, obviously is the big one. And the third that comes to mind is Moore's. Moore's Clinical Oriented Anatomy is also a really good one. Get one of those anatomy textbooks that's very well versed in all of the anatomy there. The second one is going to be Physiology. For physiology, the king of the physiology books is hands down Guyton's Physiology. Get that textbook. And the third one that comes to my mind is Radiology. Radiology is another foundational subject, and so the king of radiology is Yoka Monroe. The textbook's Yoka Monroe, and there are a whole bunch of other textbooks in radiology that you can get as well. I am a huge radiology beef. I have one sitting right here, actually. This is the Fundamentals of Skeletal Radiology by Clyde Helms, a much later textbook than the Yoka Monroe ones, for those who are familiar with Yoka Monroe. But anyway, those are some examples of some more foundational knowledge for chiropractic school that you should absolutely have textbooks for those. And then there are additional textbooks that you might get that are necessity, foundational to learn, but are more chiropractic specific. So a lot of your differential diagnosis. So you have like books like Sousa, Differential Diagnosis of the Chiropractor, maybe different subluxation theory textbooks that I have a few of them sitting right here that I was reading today, are good, necessary information to learn. A lot of orthopedic neurological diagnosis classes are important to learn while you're in school, and to some extent important for you in practice to learn as well. And so one new thing that I'm doing is when reading the textbooks, I like to draw that fine line between learning it just for learning it in the classroom and learning it actually for my actual real knowledge. And so the thing that I have with school is when you're in school, they usually give you in the style of lectures or PowerPoint style and note style, and they give you chapters 2, 3, and 4, and they tell you learn this stuff and we'll have an exam in 2 weeks on it. Right? And so you have that, and now whenever you're reading through the notes, you're looking at it like, whoa, what's going to be on the test? What's going to be on the test? And then you have that with 15 other classes that you're taking at the same time, and you're trying to balance it and be all efficient with it. And so whether you want to really learn and absorb and actually understand the material or not, it's like because of the scale of all of it and the fast-pacedness of it, you have to learn the material just for the class. And so you can kind of fall into that bubble of just learning it just to regurgitate it later without actually really absorbing it and digesting it and growing through the knowledge and the material. And so I use textbooks as a way to get that foundational knowledge material to really bridge the gap and separate the two between regurgitation versus actual true knowledge and true understanding. So that's why I like to get the foundational textbooks. Another category is for technique basis purposes textbooks. So for example, I am interested in the Gonstead technique, and so I have a handful of Gonstead textbooks that I'm constantly reading through and studying. And so a list of those would be the Gonstead Chiropractic textbook, aka the Chapters, which is the main Gonstead textbook written by Robert Herbst. I read that thing like every 3 to 4 months. I'm reading it through a full cycle through just to really absorb that thing in the back of my brain. Another one would be Gregory Plogger's textbook of Spinal Biomechanics, I believe it's called. Gregory Plogger, he is a Gonstead chiropractor, and a host of other doctors helped write that as well. A really great book there. Another one that comes to mind is Dr. Claudia Anrig, who wrote Pediatric Chiropractic. She's a pediatric Gonstead practitioner. And then another one that comes to mind, which is a very exceptional book that I'm reading right now, is the Gonstead Chiropractic ebook, which is written by the Gonstead Clinical Society in Australia. And it is a really great ebook that I'm reading right now as well. How I read my textbooks now. So if we get an example, this is the Foundations of Chiropractic here. Really great textbooks for subluxation research and subluxation theory. And so if I go through this book, as I'm reading through the different chapters, for example, I'm reading through it again as if I'm learning it for my own understanding. And so whenever I'm reading it through, I like to get a highlighter with me as well and highlight key terms, highlight important things. So that way, if I ever go back and read the chapter or read the book over again, I don't have to read through all of the pages. I can just read through the highlighted stuff. And so for example, if we look here at this chapter, on the vertebral subluxation complex, we see a little section here on free radicals. I'm talking about how free radicals play a role in biochemical injury and with the spinal degeneration process, which can facilitate in vertebral subluxation. And so I'm reading through this stuff and I'm just taking notes on really important stuff, and I'm reading like I was reading this earlier today. It's a really interesting topic about free radicals and tissue damage and how it plays a role in subluxation, how you can measure that through blood serum testing. Really interesting stuff. And as I'm reading the material, I can just highlight those key terms, and then I can reread that over time and time again as I have this textbook. Why? Because this textbook is foundational material. And I don't have a lot of my other textbooks with me, but if I had my anatomy textbook, I'm doing the same thing, just highlighting important key concepts that's getting my brain rolling, and I'm thinking about the application process as the chiropractor. So I do that in conjunction with the classes that I'm taking. So I do that in conjunction with the classes that I'm taking, and I find that not only can I do really well in the regurgitation process and get through my exams and get good grades and still learning a lot of stuff, I'm not discrediting that process, but I'm also doing this process on the back end to really facilitate my overall knowledge and understanding and growth as a chiropractor.
Yeah, I think they did on her a laminectomy fusion.
Oh, wow.
But I still, she has a little bit of a disc, but not good for her age. I mean, 21, it's pretty much. What is common now is kids have their gallbladders out. That's a super common finding. It's disturbing because I want them to know what the adjustment does and pretty much takes care of most of people's problems.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that, Dr. O'Hara. About I guess you kind of answered that because I was curious about home recommendations. If like in her case or the case before with, especially with those curve corrections, do you do any home recommendations or do you recommend exercises at a certain point? Alright, so it's getting late because I got on my funky orange blue blocking glasses and I got my nightly routine of frozen blueberries. Finishing up some last little bit of work here. I'm working on unfolding case, so it's like a case management document that we have to fill out for my lumbopelvic class. I'm just filling out this case management document, and then I'm going to get some editing work done, and we're going to call it a night. And so another thing that I'm going to do here is I think I'm going to trim out part of the video that I released yesterday on Monday, just because there's one part of the clip, I don't know who's seen it and who hasn't seen it, where I was taking a quiz. I'd take a quiz with me kind of thing. And I thought it was a great idea. I'd be like, it'll be so fun. They'll actually get to see the questions and what it's, some example questions of what it's like in school, and I can discuss and talk about it, a little bit of detail. I thought it'd be really cool. And as I looked at it after I already uploaded it, I was like, it's probably not the best thing to be actually showing the questions in class, especially if I don't have permission from the professor. So yeah, it just feels like the right thing to do to cut that out. So I'm gonna do that. I feel that'll be easier than actually having to delete the whole video, so I can still have the video up at least, because there are a lot of good things in the video. So if you're watching the video post this trim and you're like, what the heck, why did I just trim here and it makes, you know, no sense, that's why. You live and you learn.